Coogs house. We have a Houston Cougar football scheduling update for the fall. And no, it won't surprise you. It's not in the Cougs' best interests.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs Daily Podcast, all about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach Parker Ainsworth. And whether you're a Houston fan or just a hater who came to stop by, thank you for making Locked On Cougs your first listen of the day. Appreciate you making us your first listen each and every day here at Locked On Cougs. If you want to join the conversation, but you don't know what to say, tell us in the comments down below. Okay, standardized testing week this week. I've been teacher and coach. Did you like those days? They're kind of laid back. I don't know, not the worst days in the world. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports. We got more on that later. Got a lot to talk about here, and we talk about a little bit of Houston Cougar news across the football landscape. I want to talk some about the NFL draft that is tonight as you listen to this episode on Thursday. I want to talk some about offensive line for the spring game because I realized we got away from the spring game without ever talking about it. But first and foremost, it was announced on Wednesday, formally and confirmed by second and third reports, that Houston's had another game bumped to a Friday night for this upcoming football season. Houston's matchup with Oregon State in Oregon will be played on Friday night, not Saturday at some time in the day, presumably for TV time. That means that there are now 3 Friday games. Colorado, the first Big 12 game of the season, is going to be at home in Houston on a Friday night, at Oregon State now, and then late in the season at Central Florida. UCF Knights will be playing in Orlando. Houston play at Central Florida at the in Orlando on a Friday night. Houston also opens up the season with a Stephen F. Austin game at home on a Thursday night. That, for the folks keeping track at home, folks counting it up, that's a fourth of the season. That's a fourth of the season that is Friday games, a third of the season that are not being played on Saturday. Now, I gotta say that that's less than ideal, say the least. Now, look, losing 2 Saturday home games in Stephen F. Austin and Colorado, which admittedly is not the thing that changed in the last 24 hours, that's awful. It's awful for recruiting. It's awful for creating a home atmosphere. It's awful for, frankly, a lot of different aspects of creating home football environments that build a program. You're not going to get many top-tier recruits to show up to a Friday night game you're hosting as far as showing them a good time goes. Even when you're trying to recruit the greater Houston area, Willie Fritz made a big deal about not going anywhere. He could not drive to pull in recruits. You still have to have them on nights that they don't play. And if you're a big-time basketball person, you found the show through Houston Cougar basketball, or you just don't quite get why this is an issue, in the state of Texas, high school football is a really big deal. And for what I guess is technically decades, but feels like centuries or longer, football has operated, as I drop one pin to pick up another, football has operated where you have high school games on Fridays, you have college games on Saturdays, you have pro games on Sundays. Then you added a Monday night pro game, the occasional Thursday night pro game, and then you had a couple more of the Thursday night pro games and all of that. College games have kind of eaten up other days of the week. You've got some midweek maction kind of things happening for the sake of finding TV times because people realized that there's nothing better for television than live sports. Everything else can be streamed, recorded, watched later. Live sports will dominate cable television forever and ever, right? And so that's why you have these gigantic TV deals and all of that. So that means that ESPN, worldwide leader, or whomever, I actually don't know if these are Fox games or I have to go back by game, have decided to put the Houston Cougars on a Friday night. But in the state of Texas, with the gigantic high school football culture that there is, I hate to break it to you, football fans are busy on a Friday night. Those football players you're trying to recruit to come to Houston are going to be busy the night of the Colorado game. Now, the way Colorado poaches recruits, that might not be the worst thing in the world. As Deion himself said, they're not the only ones doing anything like that, but that might not be the worst thing in the world. But I will say that if you want to go out there and beat Deion Sanders and Colorado Buffaloes, doing it in front of recruits that he's potentially talking to would have been nice. If you want to kick off the season in style with a bunch of people out there, so a great first game home atmosphere. Your first game of the season's a Thursday. Your first Big 12 game of the season's a Friday. Those atmospheres just got shot in the foot. They just did. And we're going to talk about Oregon State and the road games aspect of this in a second. But I think the other part of this is, when you're trying to change the image of a program, part of Houston's image is having trouble filling up TD-ECU Stadium, with the exception of like the H-Town takeover days. And it's going to be hard to fill a stadium on those nights. People go to high school football games in Texas in a way that I don't think people not from the state of Texas understand. And this is not just small town Friday Night Lights kinds of things. This is everyone in North Shore is going to North Shore. Everyone insert Katy, they're going to Katy or the Pay Tower. Like they're all going to their local game. It's a big deal. And whether that's people going to Memorial, even the private school football in the Houston area is a big deal. Whether you're going to Legacy to watch Keyshawn, Bel Air Episcopal, wherever you're going, St. Pius, like you're going to go watch high school football on a Friday night if you're a football fan. And frankly, if not, but you're still a football fan, you're tracking a bunch of games at once, probably through social media. It makes it impossible to pay attention to anything else going on. It frankly is a large scheduling conflict for a football fan. Now, selfishly, it means that I get a Saturday off as we host this show, I guess, but that's not really the point here. The point is that in finding a TV window, Houston's getting put 4 times in the next season, certainly 3 times, with 3 of them being Friday nights next season, into spots that are not great for Houston. Now, the latest news was that this road game, Oregon State, is being moved to that window. And admittedly, that is not the financial or recruiting repercussions of a home game. Sure. But in building a brand, you're getting kind of relegated again because your Power 4 game was scheduled many years ago against Oregon State for this season. And then suddenly Oregon State's not really a Power 4 team anymore. You're getting your TV presence docked. And in college football, as we're seeing everywhere, the narrative is half the battle. And if you're playing on a Friday night obscurely in a less than optimal TV window in your big Power 4 non-conference game, that narrative is not going to be complete because people ain't watching. And I don't mean to say I've gone through and watched checked out every single TV number on every single marquee matchup from every single non-Saturday game. But the trend is down. The overarching trend is down on those instances, and that's not great. The shame of this whole thing, and I guess that's kind of where I want to leave this segment off at, but the shame of this whole thing is like, you kind of had a favorable schedule to do something really special, man. You finally have an FCS team on schedule in Stephen F. Austin. Your Power 4 is that non-traditional Power 4. So those are games you all feel like you can kind of win. You got a good shot in. I guess technically now you have an extra day to prepare for Texas Tech, one of the better teams on your schedule, but you've got no Utah, who I think will bounce back. You've got no BYU, who spent $1 bajillion in the NIL world. You've got no Kansas State. You've got no Iowa State. I'd imagine as we get closer to like the season starting, those are 2 of the teams projected to be in the top with, Oklahoma State spent a lot of money, Texas Tech spent a lot of money. Baylor returns Sawyer Robertson, right? Of your 6 road games, technically one of them is just across town in Rice. Another one's also in the state of Texas at Baylor. Um, Look, the Big 12 schools going down this road, they're going to have Friday night games. Houston has a favorable schedule next year and has had previously 4-8 seasons. I get why they're the team kind of getting the caboot here to play on more Friday nights than other teams in the Big 12. But if the Big 12 really wants to do this, play on Friday nights, have somebody play on Friday nights, they've got to understand the culture of the places that these schools call home. And frankly, with Texas being, the Big 12 itself has its headquarters in DFW. The state of Texas is a big part of what the Big 12 wants to do. If the Big 12 is going to continue to use Texas like that, and I think they should, they have to understand that realistically, the Texas schools shouldn't be playing on Friday nights. I'm not saying that to knock high school football elsewhere in Iowa or Colorado or whatever. It ain't the same. It's just not. They didn't make TV series about high school football in Nebraska. They don't make TV series about high school football in Kansas, right? The lore is around Texas, and it's for a reason. And those nights need to be for Fridays for high school football, Saturdays for college football, Sundays for pro football. I get pro football seeking the dollars out, but this is finding ways to fill TV windows that I don't think teams from Texas need to be filling. Now, when you're watching the Cougs next fall, I think you'll be watching a much more improved Houston Cougar offensive line. And I want to talk about that in 1 second. I think it's worth talking about a lot, frankly. But before we get to that, Doing Money Today show is brought to you by our buddies over at Upwork, because scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, or design, a lot more. Experts are already there to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project, a long-term partner, whatever it is, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Cost-effective growth is a big deal here. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale businesses efficiently. Trust me on that one. Visit Upwork.com right now. Push up free. That's Upwork.com. Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Parker Ainsworth, Locked on Coogs here. And that first segment got a little solemn and slow. That's not the greatest news, but I think there's some good news here on this Houston Cougar football program. And that, folks, I think is the offensive line. Now, full disclosure, I wanted to talk about the O-line coming out of the weekend, spring football practice and scrimmage. Got some clips sent to me. Obviously, did the whole Easter thing, told you all about that. And then also talked back and forth with a few people that were on the ground. Told them they wouldn't be revealed, so they're not going to get revealed. But what I do like is everything I see in clips and hear, video clips and whatever, of the offensive line. Big step ups in the offensive line. And I admittedly was going to talk about it on Tuesday's show to come back from the weekend. And then all that transfer portal mess happened, and I didn't ever get to it. But ultimately, Houston went with in what felt like a very starting lineup kind of look. David Ndukwe at the left tackle spot, transfer Jason Brooks Jr. from Oklahoma State at the left guard, Demetrius Pancake Hunter, one of the highest ranked recruits ever come through Houston, getting that start at center as he's moving into his third year of college football. Matthew Wyckoff playing the right guard spot. He is from Houston, started off at A&M, went to Cal. Now he's back at the University of Houston. And Dalton Merriman, the 6'9", looks bigger than that on video guy, playing right tackle, originally from Texas Tech, from just outside of Houston as well. Saw Evaselli play some tackle, saw Agnello play a lot of interior spots in drills. And I really like the way this offensive line looked. I thought had a good balance of athleticism on the edges and strength in the middle. I thought for where they're at in the spring, they looked like they were fairly gelled already in some of the downhill running kind of stuff. I like the way this group looks. I like that you got some depth with Ibaselli and Agnello, right? We saw a couple of guys that maybe aren't getting a whole lot of run in the transfer portal, throw their name in. But those are further down than what I would call depth pieces so far. Now, that could change by Friday evening, but that's where we're at right now on it. And I think it's good to feel good about the offensive line, always, really. But at this point in mid to late April, for this particular season, it's good to feel good with the offensive line because the importance for that group is kind of multifaceted. Now, it's always important to have a good offensive line. Obviously, it's a half of your offense, as I frequently reference. It's literally 5 of the 11 players on the field, if not more, right? We bring in tight ends and extra guys and whatever. But we know Houston will line up with Connor Wegman, a former 5-star prospect coming out of high school under center, taking snaps. That's incredible. The ding on Connor Wegman has been that he gets hurt. It's been that he gets hurt, and frankly, that when he played hurt, he didn't look so great last year. Ultimately, had to sit himself down and go get surgery and all of that. And we haven't gotten to see him healthy for very long in his college career when he was at A&M. And this offensive line's job is going to be to keep hits off of him, to keep him upright, to keep him able to do the things that he can do at an elite level. Similarly, his backup, presumably, is either Zion Chris or Austin Carlisle. And Austin Carlisle in that spring game looks like the kind of athlete you might have to have a package for. He's got some extra shiftiness in how he gets from first gear to fourth gear really, really fast. And frankly, I thought it was really cool. This is total side note that Austin Carlisle, as a quarterback, did not have the quarterback black jersey on to not hit him. It sounds like in talking to some people that afterwards, when asked about that, Fritz said it was because there were too many times when they weren't allowed to hit him that they felt confident that he might have made a large play there, and they kind of wanted to see if it unfolded. So they just put him in a white jersey instead of a black one. Dude's got wheels, like wheels, Austin Carlisle does, right? And so he may get that wildcatty package. And maybe Zion Chris, do so well last year when he kind of threw some energy into that offense and came in as a starter mid-season. All of that, though, requires giving quarterbacks time, whether that's Carlisle and the youth needing time to make reads when it's his turn to throw, Wegman needing time to not get hit because we want to make sure he stays healthy, perhaps more so than anyone else. Zion Chris, right, we saw do a lot better when he was not under pressure a year ago. The offensive line plays is really important for them. The other thing is that Houston's big splash in the transfer portal offensively in the spring window has been Tanner Keisel. And Keisel is a pass-catching tight end, we'll say, right? And great receiving threat, like really, really good receiving threat at tight end, flexes off the ball into slot really well, good route runner, great hands. He's not the blocker that the guys you had a year ago are, right? And so you're not going to be as effective this fall with Keisel out there in the max protect, blocking with tight ends kind of stuff. I'm not saying he's a net negative, but he's so much better out running routes that you ought to just have him out there running routes instead of pass blocking. And that, to me, indicates that these 5 guys probably need to do a lot of the, protecting of the pocket as a fivesome, right? They're not going to get that extra help. Now, Nagel has used max protection in the past, and so he may personnel some of the tight end stuff for that. Later, we'll see more as the fall unfolds, obviously, but that's something to keep an eye on. The biggest reason the offensive line, though, is so important is Nagel's offense. And Nagel's offense starts with the idea that the other team needs to know on any given down, you're going to line up and hit them in the mouth. And you're going to do it with an ISO play on first down. You might hit it with a counter play on third down. It doesn't matter. They need to know first quarter, second, third quarter, whatever quarter, you're going to hit them in the mouth. And that tone, that tempo, the ability to actually do that is all based and predicated on good offensive line play, right? They got the running backs to do it. Rashawn Sanford, huge year coming up. Trust. Trust. Jamarian Fat-Burnett, short yards, unstoppable. Love what Stacey Sneed brings to this locker room as a veteran. Also, always loved him out of the backfield as a pass catcher, running back type. Frankly, Dean Connors had pretty good spring day on Saturday last weekend, and for what it's worth, a lot of leadership out of that guy as well. If you ask guys around, so suddenly you got a really good running back room, an offense that wants to show them off so desperately. It's, can you block it up front? And I do feel really, really good about these guys. But I want to stress that, like, they're going to be really, really important. And so, as you're following along here, keep that Ndukwe, Brooks, Pancake, Wyckoff, and Merriman line in your mind. We'll see how things unfold over the course of the summer. But right now, things are looking up. Offensive line has gotten better. And man, oh man, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. All right, I want to talk about one aspect of the NFL draft on Thursday night, as we're recording this going into Thursday, that you might not have thought of, might not have talked about, or certainly might feel differently than me on. But before we get there, I do want to remind you today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. That's America's #1 sportsbook, because the NBA playoffs are here. Wednesday night with the Rockets is a lot of fun. FanDuel's giving away new customers an incredible way to get in on the NBA playoff action. Right now, when you visit FanDuel, join FanDuel, you place your first $5 bet, you get $250 back in bonus bets if that bet hits. I love the simplicity, single app, the quick payouts, all the things. I really like how you can get in on combining live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. At FanDuel.com, claim $250 back in bonus bets by hitting a $5 first bet today. Parker Ainsworth locked on Coogs here. And full disclosure, this segment's going to upset like 80% of you. The NFL draft is Thursday night. Peek behind the curtain here, peek up the kimono, whatever the phrase is. Locked On's been doing some stuff for the draft, the NFL draft behind the scenes, where people are being asked to record videos on like college prospects they've got or whatever. And notably, Houston doesn't have a whole lot of people being projected or ranked in the top like 350 or whatever, 300, whatever it is, for this year's NFL draft. Last year's team had good seniors. Keith Cooper is probably the closest guy. I did submit something on him just in case, because I think he should get drafted. He'll definitely get shot to the NFL this fall. It's just, there's some positional size, and is he a 3? Is he a 5? What kind of defensive lineman is he, et cetera, right? All that is to say that it does not look like, unless Keith Cooper does what I think he should do and surprises some people and gets in the draft, that Houston's going to have a guy drafted this spring. And that's not the biggest of deals. We're in the middle of a rebuild, etc. But I kind of feel like we do have people getting drafted, because I watched Matthew Golden play for 2 years in a Houston Cougar uniform, and he is going to be the first receiver taken in the draft, potentially. It depends on which position you call Travis Hunter. But I saw Matthew Golden score 15 touchdowns for Houston over 2 years. I feel like he's a guy I cheered on as a fan, and I'm excited for him. And I think that's the stance I've taken in this new college football or college sports world, right, where guys are changing teams every couple months at this point in college football, where guys are moving around a lot. If I cheered for you in this uniform, I want you to go do well afterwards, right? If you put on Houston Cougars, put on Houston Cougar jersey, put on Houston across your chest, UH on your helmet, whatever, I want you to go be successful after. You gave me something to cheer for however long, right? Now, that's not the blanket statement, I guess, completely. I also want you to be an upstanding person. That's probably more important in the first place, right? But generally speaking, if you put on the jersey, I'm going to cheer for you afterwards as well, right? That carries over to Matthew Golden for me. He didn't have the big exodus that others have had, to say the least. He when the coaching change happened and Dana Holgerson went out and we were going to bring Fritz in, he was like, that's a rebuild. I got to go pro. See you guys later. He went to UT Austin, right? And he, presumably made a bunch of NIL money. He also made critical catches for them in college football playoff games, and end up going to the combine running a 4.2. And I don't know if the playoff games or the 4.2 did it, but he is probably going to be the first true wide receiver taken in the 2025 NFL draft. And maybe it's because he's also a kid from Houston. I don't know. I find myself cheering for that like I did Tank. It's not quite the same. Tank also became a Texan, so I feel like that kind of feels fun about that. But, Tank was a Coug for a couple of years. Matthew Golden was a Coug for a couple of years. Different couple of years. Tank played until he told me I had to stop. Golden left. Those are differences. But I was excited to see Tank Dell get drafted. I'm excited to see Matthew Golden get drafted. And I think that's where a lot of you and I differ. I think a lot of people get bitter about this or upset about this. And I don't think you can keep doing that because this transfer thing is going to stay. And Houston's rebuilding a program, and it will not always be this way. But right now, Golden came here for a couple of years, got better, got some development. One got put on some national televised games. And now he's a pro. And, whether it's because he had a big game his freshman against East Carolina, he had the game winner against Temple, big catch in the baby blue, the Love You Blue jerseys against UTSA. They had a kickoff return. I think it was against TCU, and it felt like at the time like that might jumpstart winning a Big 12 game against TCU in the first opportunity they had one. At the time, it felt like it was that kind of a play. Anyway, suddenly, those are the memories I think of with Matthew Golden. Right, when I see his name get called, that's what I think of, and I cheer for that. That's it. That's the thing I'm excited about. And so, anyway, I think he will be the first true receiver drafted. I think Jamari Caldwell, in a similar kind of vein, will also be at that fringe of getting drafted. He's projected somewhere in the low 200s, and that will kind of be at the later part of the draft. But I think that while so many college football fan bases right now are preparing to see the guy that just played for them go, I kind of feel the same way about Matthew Golden. And I might find myself correcting people when they say from Texas and Houston. And so maybe that's it. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe now you've logged off because you don't want to hear this anymore. But I really think that until the Houston program is the one that keeps guys the full time, and we're working towards that. And frankly, it's a little bit different with Matthew. Matthew didn't leave for no reason. He left after the coaching change. He came to be a Dana Holgerson guy. Dana left, so he left, right? There's no proof one way or the other on this. There's a world where Dana doesn't leave, and neither does Matthew Golden, right? And so I say that I'm cheering for him on Thursday night, and I'm intrigued. Are you? Are you also cheering for Matthew Golden in the NFL draft on Thursday night, even if he did not finish his career at Houston Cougar, but he did start one? He's not just any Houston Cougar. He's one from Houston. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't matter to you. It does to me. We'll talk about that and more throughout the week. We got some Big 12-y kind of stuff on Friday's episode. Big 12 squad out later today. That is Thursday. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. We appreciate you being a listener and an everydayer here with us. Hit subscribe, hit the bell so you know that we are live when we get there. Locked On Coogs is a proud member of the Locked On Podcast Network. That means your team every day. Go Coogs.